Welcome to the final week of Spinnaker Summit. My name is Ryan Cartwright. In today's session, I'm going to be talking about 5 reasons Spinnaker aligns to FinServ Business Initiatives. Financial institutions ranging from banks to credit card companies to credit rating companies to financial services are adopting Spinnaker. Before we begin, here's a little intro about myself. I've been with Armory a little over 2 years, but prior to that, I spent 5 years working with some of the world's largest companies at VMware. I also was a customer at the beginning of my career in infrastructure engineering at Stanley Black & Decker. I went to business school at University of North Carolina, Kenan-Flagler, and did my undergraduate degree at UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County. In my spare time, I like to sail on the bay in San Francisco and go scuba diving around the world when I can. So 2 of those passions I'm kind of missing right now with COVID, so hopefully everyone's safe at home. Here's a quote from 2008. A 2018 executive survey found that nearly 80% of top executives said that they feared disruption or displacement from firms like those in fintech sector or firms specializing in big data. The movement to bring transformative and disruptive innovation to financial services through application of new and emerging technologies which address consumer needs through automation. So how are these FinServ initiatives driving financial service innovation? Well, the reality is changes come slowly to financial services, and innovation has proceeded at an evolutionary pace, some would say glacial. However, we've seen a bunch of technological advances such as the ATM, online banking, bill payment, and mobile banking have enhanced consumer experience in banking and payments while alleviating costs, increasing convenience, and streamlining processes. Some of the advantages these fintech companies have is not being encumbered by legacy systems and processes. They're able to move faster, and they're able to develop solutions that compete directly with traditional methods of delivering financial services. Here's a poll that I saw from CB Insights. FAMGA, for those that don't know, stands for Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. As you can see, these large 5 tech giants are filing new patents, they're creating partnerships, they're creating products, they're acquiring companies and investments, all in the FinServ space. Another item that's accelerated things recently is, since the beginning of the year, COVID-19 has accelerated the shift away from cash with contactless and digital payments. You see a couple quotes from the Wall Street Journal. Visa and MasterCard reported that 40% year-over-year global growth for tap to pay or contactless transactions. So there's definitely a transformation happening within some of these larger FinServ companies. So a few questions to ask yourself while you're going through this presentation. Do you care about moving fast or moving faster than you are today? Do you care about your customers? Do you care about driving a great experience to those customers? Do you care about reliability? Do you care about predictability? Just ponder on those as we go through this presentation. I was watching a presentation last week, and Kelsey Hightower from Google was talking about, we always say move fast, and the reality is he says he thinks most companies, it's not about moving fast, it's can you move at all? Most companies are legitimately paralyzed. They're literally stuck doing the same thing over and over again, like Groundhog Day, hoping there's no disruptions like an attack from unwanted entity, a security vulnerability, or something blows up. They're just in this stale waiting pattern. So these companies, they just need to be able to move. As long as you're moving forward in some pace, there are tools like Spinnaker that can help you. So goal number 1 should be the ability to move. Here's a quote from AJ Lang, JPMorgan Chase's CTO. Increasing the velocity of our software delivery lifecycle is what enables development teams to iterate faster and in turn increase our output of innovative products and services for our customers and clients. JPMC has gone on record stating their adoption of Spinnaker. You can see one of their presentations live from Sandia at Spinnaker Live from our online conference in June. So here's 5 strategic tech initiatives that we're seeing in financial services, from empowering developers to replacing change boards and manual policy with code, replacing homegrown deployment tooling, consistent paths to production, and leveraging multiple public clouds, or creating a hybrid cloud environment. Code that's not out in production is inventory. There was a conversation where Andy Glover, who now runs productivity engineering at Netflix, who used to be on the team that created Spinnaker on the delivery engineering team, talked about inventory. If you think about traditional companies, you don't want a whole lot of inventory. If it's production ready, put it in front of your customers confidently and as rapidly as possible so that you can get a signal and either do more or do less with it. But every company wants that regardless of domain, and you don't need to be Google or Netflix to want that. In attempting to address this challenge, a lot of financial firms are trying to hedge their bets. They're hiring developers by the dozen and signing multi-million-dollar deals and contracts with cloud providers such as AWS and Google and Microsoft. Their attempt is really to increase innovation velocity, but at the same time, they're expanding their security and compliance teams and retaining the much dreaded change review board in an attempt to maintain safety. This approach is extremely expensive and ultimately produces only incremental benefits because it doesn't solve the fundamental problem. Security and compliance policies block developers at the end of the delivery process instead of empowering and informing them from the start. Here's a handful of FinServ companies that have gone on record, that have rated some case studies, that have talked at Spinnaker Summit about their public adoption of Spinnaker. So you can see JPMC, the largest bank in the US, Standard Chartered, it's a British multinational banking and financial services company. It's the 8th largest bank in the UK. Chime is now the most valuable US consumer fintech. TransUnion is an American consumer credit reporting agency. Grab is the most well-funded private fintech startup in the market in Southeast Asia. And Xero is a worldwide leader in small business finance and accounting software. They're the largest fintech software company in New Zealand. Despite monetization challenges, challenger banks show sustained user growth. So leading the way of those challenger banks is Chime. So Chime, they're powered their software delivery by Spinnaker. Another fintech that we just mentioned, Grab, here's a few other. There's established fintechs are launching lending products to capitalize on pandemic boosted e-commerce. Grab's been an early adopter of Spinnaker that has over 1,000 developers. In 2019, prior to COVID, I had the chance to go to Singapore and was a user of Grab, and I actually had the chance to visit Grab in person in their office in Singapore. Here's a couple trends that we're going to discuss, and then I'm going to tie this back to these initiatives and how Spinnaker can help. 5 digital banking initiatives for the second half of 2020. They range from enabling emerging technologies, continued innovation, improving analytics and insights, increasing customer engagement, leveraging the open banking API partnerships, and strategically growing customer acquisition accounts. The continuously changing landscape of 2020, it's important to adhere to the customer's continuously changing needs when they decide to make their selective trips into the branch. Customers now more than ever require a clear line of sight into the lobby experience, whether it's accurate wait times on when they can meet with an advisor or seeing how many people are actually inside the branch. With lobby management, your customers get to the center banking experience around their own needs, provide accurate branch information while prioritizing the customer's physical safety inside the branch. A few more retail banking trends for 2020 and beyond. A couple that I'll focus on is the focus on setting up new innovative real-time payment services that attract fintech companies and consumers. For those still mostly offering traditional banking services, they're going to shift away from their primary focus to the integration of new technologies and the enhancement of digital offerings with the emphasis on more value and personalized client experiences. There's already a handful of large banks that have invested in digital assistants such as Capital One, Barclays, Bank of America, USAA, and US Bank. And finally, here's some financial services industry challenges and opportunities looking forward to 2021. Eliminating data breaches. Each attack is costing financial services firms millions of dollars, and they need to continue to come up with innovative solutions to stay ahead of these cyber criminals. Firms must also modernize their technology platforms and data storage so they can enable big data solutions such as AI-supported digital customer support assistance. And back to kind of the age-old question: do you build it or do you buy it? Financial firms are faced with this choice. I'm here to tell you, buying it is cheaper and it's faster than building it. Spinnaker is taking 6 years of learnings from Netflix, from Google, from Amazon, from a bunch of other large companies that you can see contributing to Spinnaker on the DevStats, which is now maintained by the CD Foundation. Spinnaker is acting as a standard library that you can start with the standard library instead of building your own. Buying it really means seeking out partners to drive innovative initiatives. Most firms are taking the hybrid approach. There's a lot of developers, and every developer thinks they can build it better, but why would you do it better? We want developers to be focused on business logic and don't toil away on the glue code about setting up infrastructure to deploy your code. If you don't see a feature, don't just throw away Spinnaker. Come to the community, help us to build it. Let's jump into Spinnaker. I'm not going to go into what Spinnaker is. There's been enough sessions on that during the time at Spinnaker Summit. You can see a lot of the benefits, a lot of your peers, other customers, a lot of the commercial vendors talking about Spinnaker. There's a lot of recordings dating back to the initial Spinnaker Summit for the past few years. I'm here to talk about the 5 S's of Spinnaker: safe, scale, secure, speed, and support. Let's start with safe. There's a handful of things that Spinnaker comes with that allows you to drive a better customer experience. Lowering your change rate failure, serializing your workflows into both as code and a visual representation of how you deploy from code to cloud. It's a standard library for software delivery, and you get a lot of advanced deployment technologies such as blue-green deployments, automated canary analysis, and you just get benefits of having things in version control. If you want to start with the right framework, because we have experience, learn from the industry leaders that have been leveraging Spinnaker for the past few years. Stop trying to recreate the wheel and create another CI/CD solution when you can pick one up that's off the shelf. Scale. When we talk about scale, as these financial firms are moving into the cloud, they're leveraging support from different cloud providers, whether it's Amazon, Google, Microsoft, or even private cloud providers such as VMware Tanzu or Red Hat OpenShift or Kubernetes on bare metal. There's first-class support for these cloud contracts. There's integration to multiple SDLC platforms. Last year, Armory and the engineering community of Spinnaker open sourced the plugin framework. So more and more SDLC platforms and companies are plugging into the SDLC to be able to quickly add additional stages that maybe didn't exist in prior years. There's standardized cloud workflows and a holistic view of your deployments. It's very application centric. You don't have to see it from the infrastructure first. This is built for app developers. A quote from TransUnion, they submitted a case study last year to Spinnaker.io. They said we love the simple command line interface for administration, integration with multiple platforms, and easy configurability using pipelines. A lot of organizations will start within the UI, build out their constructs, drag and drop, figure out how to create their pipeline. And a pipeline can be as simple as grabbing your artifact, building it, deploying it, running some tests. As you make learnings over time, you can create more complicated pipelines to meet your needs. 2 other extensions that have been created to help with scalability are Pipelines as Code and the Armor agent for Kubernetes. And these both have benefits as you start to have dozens, hundreds, thousands of pipelines, applications, and teams starting to use and standardize on Spinnaker. Secure. There's a lot of discussion around policy-driven deployments and security as code. There's now integrations with Open Policy Agent, which is another CNCF project. If you haven't heard of CNCF, take a look at OPA, take a look at OPA, take a look at Styra. There's an integration now into Spinnaker. Spinnaker comes with automated policy enforcement now. There's integration into secrets management, and there's automated security testing and patching. There's also native integration to RBAC for Auth-N and Auth-Z into whether it's LDAP or solutions like Okta. Over the last couple months, The Spinnaker community has standardized on a CVE process that has rankings and scoring systems for the CVSS scores to fix those vulnerabilities before they make it. So now this aligns well with other banks and financial institutions. Speed. Another reason to use Spinnaker is for speed. It lowers your lead time, it increases your deployment frequency, it's lowering your mean time to recovery, and you get faster feedback loops. Code that's not out in production is inventory, and you don't want a whole lot of inventory. So get it in front of your customers as confidently and as rapidly as possible so that you can get a signal and either do more of it or less of it. But every company wants that regardless of your main. And finally, the last S, support. There's commercial support options available. There's a large and growing open source community. You can join the Slack community. There's different community events like Spinnaker Summit, like Spinnaker Live. There's a lot of meetups happening now, online meetups happening that are discussing Spinnaker and different use cases. Rosalind Benoit has done a great job creating and organizing Spinnaker Gardening Days. I hope a few of you are participating. There's been a lot of new integrations that have been coming out of the Gardening Days, which is a virtual hackathon that's been taking place over the course of Spinnaker Summit. And finally, there's a bunch of special interest groups that can allow you to get involved. These range from Kubernetes to security to onboarding to UI UX. And there's a lot of topics that are in there and they all can use some help. So feel free to join in. Go to the Spinnaker page. They're all on GitHub to check out the historical meeting minutes. Here's another quote from JPMC from Stephen Flaherty. He's the head of core engineering and enterprise architecture. I won't read this, but you can just kind of read this for yourself. To kind of bring it home, again, the 5 S's of Spinnaker: safe, scale, secure, speed, and support. And I'm going to align these to some of the initiatives we talked about from the financial services world. So safety, it's the commitment to digital delivery. Your customers and your consumers want to be able to deposit checks from home. They no longer want to go to the branches all the time, especially now with COVID. So having safety, this allows you to drive digital delivery and innovate to keep up with your customers' demands. Scale, there's a lot of initiatives going on with the open banking and the open banking API. As this expands into more and more banks, you're going to need to have this scale so you can integrate with this faster as things change. Security, eliminating data breaches. Speed, keeping up with all the different regulatory changes that are occurring. And then support, exceeding consumer expectations. If any of this resonated, I know we just kind of touched on a bunch of these different topics briefly. Feel free to stay in touch with me. Again, my name is Ryan Cartwright. I'm the head of enterprise delivery at Armory for Worldwide FinServ. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can send me an email at ryan@armory.io. You can follow me on Twitter, or there's a link to my calendar if you want to grab 30 minutes of time on my calendar, and we can meet to discuss what other customers are doing and how we can help you and help you start adopting Spinnaker today. Thank you very much. Everyone have a great Spinnaker Summit. Talk to you soon.